Hello and welcome to the Soul Freedom Show. This is your host Lokesh Baba. Our website is soulfreedom.org. We are both on YouTube Live and on Blog Talk Radio. Our special guest today is Arcturus. Ra is based out of Sedona, Arizona. He is a researcher and a teacher in the field of spiritual transformation and technology. He has developed many spiritual tools and created many YouTube videos with his teachings. And one of his most popular tools is the gammatron key. And without further ado, I welcome my special guest, Arcturus. Hi, Ra. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Good to see you. So how's your day going over there?
Yeah, I'm going through my usual stuff in science, assembly, trying to make the world better with things that can assist people in their daily life, figuring out, why we're here and where we're going. It's an ongoing process they call ascension. 2012 was more of a marker of, now let's go. The school is open, so anything you want to put your mind to, you can reevaluate, reconfigure, reassemble, redesign, whether it's quantum physics, whether it's religious beliefs, books, knowledge, anything that you know that was based on an old paradigm. Right now, in your mind, you have the allowance to freely construct your world as you see fit with the consciousness of the new sun.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Why don't we just start a little bit with your background, how you got started and what's your background?
My background, it's a complex background. I've been reading books that they were children's books in Germany. I'm half German. They were called What is What. These books were based on what is science based on. What is a molecule? What is quantum physics? What is a photon? How does a steam train work? How does a doorknob work? Why is rain falling out of the sky? All of these things made for kids explained science, what that is, and I was always eager to know, how does the world function? What is this world that I'm in? Besides the fact that I always believed that we are all from other planets, reincarnated on Earth. Many of us have memories of situations that were more futuristic, but I try to anchor that in and try to make sense of it. As a child, when I got my first Lego box to build, I pointed out that I want these space explorers before I knew anything about astronauts, because I was fascinated with the aspect that you can actually leave Earth or go elsewhere, and not as an escape, more as an explorer. And the first thing that I built or constructed with a set that Lego had in the 80s was basically a commando base with a landing platform, like a star portal with a science lab. And since then, I always had that dream, like one day, whatever's going to happen, just me, playful me, innocent child mind, I said, I'm going to build this. And I have to use an example here, like Nikola Tesla said when he was 13 that he's going to build a power plant in the Niagara Falls. And he was laughed at. Not to say that I am Tesla or anywhere near these great minds. I'm just standing on the shoulder of these giants, looking at where they finished their work. And ever since, I studied TV, VCR, computer technology, so I worked in that field for 4 years. Audio mix engineering and broadcasting, so I went to a school to learn mix engineering. At night school, I basically taught myself computer languages so I can understand and write machine code, which later on was boring for me, gave me headaches, because I'm like a guy, I need images, I need practical stuff. Like I need my right brain to be inspired. Like, if overwhelming logic never worked for me, algebra was a disaster, because these formulas we had at school didn't give me pictures, so I sucked in math. Now I have a math that's completely based on pictures and images, if they harmonize or if they fit. So my entire life, I was in pursuit of the science and the right science, in between, for 20 years, I was a rap entertainer, and all of that science stuff that I had basically bled into my lyrics. Like that never left me alone. That path was set for me to end up and begin anew, like I'm here, how I came to Sedona, basically exploring. I remember when I was 12, my grandma gave me a book on the mysteries of the universe, ancient cultures, ancient gods that come from the heavens that nobody knows where to place, some artifacts that they don't know what it is. They have no explanation. And I realized there are things on Earth that we have forgotten through time and through communication or lack of communication. Hitler had the burning of the books, so who knows how much knowledge got lost there. When the Library of Alexandria burned down, who knows, books of Archimedes, books of Nostradamus, as in what they call him here, Nostradame, got lost. Knowledge of Alexander the Great, Caesar, private letters to Jesus, I mean, you name it, all of that stuff became myth because nobody had actually physical evidence of that stuff. And I was fascinated with everything, any material that explained to me, don't believe in. Like, I couldn't accept the world that I saw. Everybody goes to work, everybody gets married, has children, retirement, and you die. And I see no spiritual development in that, Even though people want to argue that might be spiritual development, but I was very strict with myself. I said I don't see any particular development in people here where they come home and they're happy. Where I heard people complaining at their jobs, people that I looked at when I went out in the world with my mom, and everybody complained at the cash register or I don't know, flight attendant or whatever they did. I heard them saying to me like, I wish I could do something different. If I could, I would do this and this and this and this. And I'm realizing, okay, why is it that we're not creating our dream? And then why is it that when you have the best of dreams, you always have to leave? Why not create something that you don't have to leave? Actually, which is what I did, is like I moved into Eden. Sedona is like, it's a dream being here, It's not easy. I mean, I have an online business and an ongoing bigger business, entrepreneurship that helps me to establish myself and sustain myself. My soulmate, my reflection, Krista Reisa, she has her own channel, is a psychic and a trance medium, and has already 2 books out. So, like, I have the perfect constellation for me in my life now, and I'm 45, going through all of this. So I have a scientific background as if I have studied for 30 years, basically. Experimenting from little screwdriver thingies to setting balloons on fire. Like, I did my own little experiments. Sometimes stuff went out of control. I blew stuff up. My mother got mad when I was at home. Smoke came out of my room. And it was not the typical mad lab scientist situation. It's just, life to me was a science lab. Everything I can get my hands on, I would just play with it, I would sometimes even sit and listen to, the sprinkler system when they hit the grass, and then they go, and I heard when they went, and then they went, and I realized, okay, when they synchronize and when they desynchronize, and I didn't know what I was listening to, but I followed patterns. Why is this pattern there? What does this pattern do? So I'm a freak for decoding material, decoding things, looking at solutions. I'm Aquarian, my sign is supposed to be the universal mind to replenish the earth with new ideas and new light. That's actually what I'm working on. Pretty successful. I'm to make this short because this can go in many different directions and galaxies that I've entered. To bring it here is that I've come up with the idea to make the Rainbow Ascension Key. And Rainbow Ascension Key was actually the idea based from Ra, as in the light. And it's not a fancy name that I gave myself. Ra is a derivative of Renee, as renewal. That's my original name. So I took that, and the ancient German name is Reinar, which is Ranier. So Rene or Rene or Renaissance, the French, renewal. So renewal, the new light. I always had a connection to the sun god Ra. I always had a fascination with Egypt. Me, my mom, we believe we had past lives in Egypt, like almost like an obsession that we studied the dynasties, and we went into detail that Akhenaten, before he was Akhenaten, he was called Thutmose III, and the lineage and the families and the dynasties and the kings that fell, and we were just locked on that. And my mom, in 1963, she had books from Erich von Däniken, Remember Chariots of the Gods. So these books were sitting on a shelf when I was born. Not only that, I was born when my mom came out of a coma. I lost half of my family in a car accident. So I think I have a very unusual pattern of beingness, being here, having survived life. I have 3 near-death experiences behind me. I have crossed where I have seen the other side. I've seen the barrier. I've seen how hard it is when you cross. You see all the possibilities in the worlds that are there. And when you bounce back, how you have no one to communicate that to but people that have crossed, or people that did psychedelics that can somewhat relate to you went in what dimensional aspects where you went, bringing back more knowledge. Now I'm at a stage where I'm having breakthroughs, where one thing is with the key is what I'm working with is I was initiated to work with what is called crystalline substance, and how to store light, as in photons and biophotons, harness them in a photonic shooter, which is a bigger machine, kind of like a Tesla machine, but fully operational, doesn't need electricity. And there was a manufacturer in Germany that I had the chance to meet, who's not allowed to produce that stuff, harmless silica quartz sand. And I felt the energy coming from the sand, And then it felt like to me as if these molecules of the sand were like talking to me. And then I began my journey I said, okay, if I have a sand that I can enhance the light, let's say regular crystals are lit by 10 to the second, as in potency. And this guy explained to me that he has nanospherical quartz sand, lab produced, that is charged with photonic light, and it's at a level of 10 to the 15th. In my G teachings, I explain what these 15 layers mean of dimension. It means 15 dimensional layers of light within your cell. So then I make this story real compact because otherwise it becomes a book and it never ends, so people understand actually what my main topic is. So I looked at orgone. What does orgonite do? And like pure orgonite, actually the raw orgonite, how Wilhelm Reich developed it, and everybody can read this, is just organic, inorganic, organic, inorganic. You don't add crystals. These new devices that you see is a mix of crystalline energy with orgone energy. Wilhelm Reich was actually working with the organic life force field, realizing that metal attracts life force and refracts in a wave and brings it into an acceleration. Also, I looked at the Russians. They studied what happens if we put people in metal rooms. They become shielded. Their psychic power increases. Earth is not bombarding them. Scalar waves are not hitting them. It's like as if you can take somebody out of the conscious field and just link them to themselves. And they ultimately link to a higher field, which some of us call scalar waves. And I was fascinated with the idea that there is a higher field that can restructure you and bring order and balance to you. And then they showed me, basically initiated me into, now I'm a manufacturer and I'm distributing that in the form of a pendant / pendulum. It's like if I fill that sand into a pendant, then I have an idea of an emanation that I can program. The light structure, or scalar waves, or biophotonic action. Not only that, I realized, if you wear metal, metal attracts negative ions. but it's all unstructured. So I was thinking, okay, and this is all like me, you know, being 40 years, being with my eyes and ears open to, like, I know what's what. I can look at certain structures and then I can tell you somewhat, you know, what you can do to change something. Like, I can look at a water purification system, I can taste the water, and I can tell the person, well, it's not pretty lit, you know, and then I can suggest, okay, well, maybe go to a fountain and get holy water, or go to a regular fountain and put 2 of the drops on a display of Killian photography and measure the coronal discharge. And if you see one is brighter than the other, then you have to look at water structure. So I had the water body talking to me. So I have the water here. How do I communicate structure and structured light to the water body? Like, I'm really leaning way out there when people saying that's not possible, it's never been done. Like, I've done phenomenal experiments, which I'll just give a hint here. That's why I say in my videos, hypothetically speaking, because before, you know, I can't show any proof, I can't make any claims. So I'm just saying is I had one example where I used my key technology with a friend of mine and implemented that in a car, and it resulted in the car saving fuel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's holding. I'm testing my own car with my technology. I'm driving around with a blown head gasket and the car is not leaking. The mechanic said my car was not supposed to be running. It's supposed to be finished. And yet it runs. It runs considerably cooler. It saves gas. And the idle is from 1,200 RPMs down to like 600, and it's still running idle. So I'm saving a lot. So I see that I have a physical impact. This stuff is all patented, all protected. All, like, I have like 50 people all recording me, videos uploaded and archived. Like if I do this, basically I have 50 sites that will release my findings. And at some point they will all do. That's all timed. And it's, yeah, like, I can influence matter by changing the light structure around you, beginning with the human body. And I'm not the only one that has found that out. We also have found out that when water has a certain light level, when it drops, that can be measured. If the biophotonic action in water drops, water gets foul and begins to die. And when it dies, you can say the bio-vitality drops to a level where the pH level drops, and then it just gets stinky and murky and dark. So with that sand, even in agriculture, we have realized, put some sand in there, and the water comes back. So
Right.
here's the great idea as a long-term goal, is to not just sit there and esoterize and mentalize concepts that have been copied concepts. I want to be able to give physical data and physical proof to, you can apply this to your life, clear the air, clear the emission rate, clear chemtrails that can be applied to a plane.
Mm-hmm.
The dust particles coming from an Amtrak train, as in trains that run on diesel, ships, construction, you know, just a little application that'll change the light spectrum of the flowing fluids in the engine. And that's, like, I think I'm having a breakthrough here by not reinventing the wheel, but allowing myself to look at certain things different than a Harvard professor would do that, or a guy who's a quantum physicist, because they have all the theories, and a lot of people, or some people, they know what doesn't work. I don't know that. Like, I don't have a preconceived notion of what doesn't work. See, the brain can very quick boycott itself. Knowing the brain can receive on a subconscious level 11, I think, billion bits.
Mm-hmm.
And the consciousness can only process 200 bits a second.
Mm-hmm.
So you see how much you're missing of your perception. So of course you have a preconceived notion. Meaning, if you're working in an environment where you have 100 scientists that have a certain knowledge of what doesn't work, that you embody that also within what they're emitting from their hearts and their brains, also scalar waves. You're sitting in that puddle. So you can't, I mean, only the strongest get out of there and get out of the quagmire of that and develop something. So I'm not there. I'm completely, yeah, freakazoid mode on the other side, saying what happens to the water when I do this, and stuff works. I test people and friends with the applications that I haven't released yet, and they're all satisfied. The stuff is working. I can also build an ionizing air conditioner that comes with a root cellar frequency into your house that stabilizes, the temperature to 69 degrees in your house. Completely different application of what is out on the market right now. Same thing with fridges. I want to change the light spectrum of a fridge, inside of a fridge, and right now I'm working on getting a bigger space for a lab where I want to put strawberries in there and see people like after a week the stuff begins to rot because there's no life force in a fridge. It maintains the cool temperature, but it's actually the end of your food because it's not a root cellar. People have to remember what I looked at, and I remember is when my grandma put apples in a root cellar, they lasted 6 to 7 months. That's unheard of for any processed product that you buy today. So okay, that has to do with the light spectrum, the shielding, biophotonic action, negative ions. Also, I looked at cancer patients where where the Russians showed that cancer grows when you have an oxygen treatment with positive ions. And then they changed in oxygen treatments, like when people have these breathers to negative ions, and all of a sudden, the growth of the tumor begins to stop, and in some cases disappear. So again, I look at the light spectrum and the cell structure and the intracellular communication, meaning how do cells internally communicate amongst each other. There are still people who say it's quackery, but there are many sites. I don't know them all by heart because I'm reading so much stuff and I'm not writing all of this down. I just want to come with evidence where there was a Russian scientist, and I forgot his name. If I ever find his name, I want to use it as an example. He found out that if you have the human cell has, when it's healthy and communicates on an intracellular communication, 100,000 biochemical impulses going back and forth between the two cells. So that's part of my gammatron key, is like I want to remind the heart of its original light frequency because the environment doesn't give that to you. Regular companies and your network in your house do not remind you how to get into a higher light body. Also, I found out for myself through visions and vision questing that you have 3 energy bodies. You have an etherical body, you have an emotional body, and you have an electrical body. One is the thoughts, the mind, the body, and the soul. I call it the Emi body, some call it the dragon body, or the Buddha body, or the rainbow body. When you see Buddha sitting and you have this rainbow around it, that means full access to all 3 levels. Right. 100% running. All brain frequencies are in unison working, and that has been tested in labs. It's not so magical. What they don't understand is why psychedelics can induce that in people. Basically, they can show you your way back, but I'm not trying to recommend to people to do anything illegal. Watch the law. If you want to go to the Andean Mountains in Peru, go out there, do something there, off grid. The question is why is it that when our brain reaches a level of 40 hertz of a spin cycle, it can harmonize, synchronize, and you have all these ideas and epiphanies, and most of these prophets that sat on a rock had these psychedelic inductions, whether they sat for 80 years until their brain went psychedelic and burst it all out because they stored all the energy, or if they ate in natural sacraments, and then they had these visions, and I don't know, Lao Tzu, Confucius, or the word Kung Fu comes from, the guy sat on a rock until the Kung Fu figures appeared in front of him, and he can see actually martial arts, and then he put it into a book, and it became, look what happened to martial arts of the world. Like, we can envision powerful stuff that's in the ether, that's for us and by us, always was, always will be. And my theory is that if you get everything in your body structured and your scalar waves, meaning when I again break down when these 2 cells communicate, That's only possible in a scalar wave protected environment, absolutely almost shielded. Immune system up and running, your alpha, beta, theta, and gamma or delta running accurately, your brain oscillating on a high frequency, and you can hold that state where Patrick Flanagan has proven at a certain frequency with your brain state and frontal lobe activity, your IQ is infinite. An IQ is not finite. It's like that has to do on, you know, how fast can you go? How much can you access of your higher regions of your cell formation? Hence, what we talk about ETs, ships and contact, spirit guides, angels, and all that. This is higher cellular communication, meaning your body is trying its best to help you to align yourself to become one with Source and become magical again, which is actually technological. Science can prove that. And then things will come in where people will have evidence that needs to be documented because they don't even understand why that is. So I'm allowing myself to dig real deep, to go deep into the crazy stuff and wanting to help people get better, stabilizing their mineral household, you know. My colleague works on a tincture that's based on biophotonic acceleration. If people want to really get into biophotons, I suggest, you know, Google photon. What is a photon? You know, what is biophotonic imaging? They do that, you know. What they do is they take an organ and then they put it in a low light level chamber, and then they measure how much light does this thing emit without having a light in there. It has to do with photons emit light. They are glowing particles, you know, and they're timeless, and they don't decay over time. And they have to do with scalar waves and how we learn not to manipulate and let nature reveal itself the way it does. So it's like the mission now is to find that holy river where you can dip your wheel in and let the wheel spin as the river runs it, and not trying to build a channel and channel that river in an unwanted direction. We just want to borrow energy and give it back, and that's actually redefining what we call free energy. Free energy really doesn't exist. There's only energy that you can borrow for a certain amount of time. So even the light that's stored within the nanospherical quartz sand, after 15,000 years linear timeline, the light isotopes collapse, and you'd have to recharge it, but it takes only 1 minute. That's the miraculous stuff. And when you put that sand, let's say, in dead fat, milk, it turns into yogurt. And regular milk does not do that. I mean, you can try that. Pour just regular processed milk, you know, in a bowl, and let it sit for 3 days. It's going to rot and get foul. With the influence of the nanospherical quartz sand that I use in my key, which kind of looks like this, is basically showing you that the biovital energy can be accessed and the cell structure can be reminded to reactivate that, so healing for the body can begin. And German scientists, Russian, and I think British scientists have proven that cell DNA repair and cell repair really runs efficiently when you have biophotons in air. Biophotonic emission 10 to the 15th. That is just a term basically saying if you shed enough light into a situation, everything becomes clear. And that's as within, so without, so for your body. And basically, that's what I'm working on, is that to get people healthy, to get them well, to get their brain really activated in a certain manner that they can get it. If you want to go deeper into the material, you know, on my YouTube channel, on the Arcturus Ra, you can watch the G teachings, as in the gammatron teachings. I will also add a gammatron key course where I really break down and explain what the key does. I'm gonna read a little bit that I wrote down. Is like involving or relating to photons on a very high frequency that has to do with what gamma means as a high burst, not nothing negative. Tron as an electron is a circuit, a network based on a communication with its own laws. So you have a gammatronic key as in tapping into source energy and bringing back the right frequency for cells to communicate. Specifically, biophotons can we can store light in crystals and use crystalline light as emitters and generators, such as the nanospherical quartz sand. You know, the resonance of quartz sand or quartz crystal is identical with the human cell, actually. Like the light, like the receptivity and the resonance of to sunlight. You know, people don't know that a quartz crystal has the same thing that your human body has. You have silica in you. You have something in your fingers to, you know, when you train yourself, you can bring that back to sense electricity or electric current or ley lines. That has to do with neodymium. Neodymium is in your blood. It's not so magical when people say they're sight or psychic. They give them special powers. It just means somebody's in tune. Turtles. Was it turtles? Pigeons. Pigeons are psychic. You know when they all fly in unison?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have magnetite in their cell structure, in their chromosomes. And that magnetite is like a little compass in their cell structure. And when they hit the ley lines, it's like the entire body goes into the direction, and the flock follows the majority that's in tune. That's how they tune. You know how they found out that this magnetite, we have that also, but our stuff is all dormant because it's not trained and not lit up enough. When they genetically outbred the magnetite out of pigeons, guess what? They were lost. They could never find their way home. They had no orientation. They completely lost, like a mess. It's like I'm taking your sense of self. Right. So that shows us there's actually physical data, physical proof that, you know, the animals. You know, let's say there's a bushfire and going in the direction of the animals, and they pick it up and they walk away before the fire is even near. Well, some people might say, you know, some non-believers say, oh, it's because of the smell, and you know. Now here's another thing. Nobody can explain before the tsunami and it hit. The fish grounds disappeared 2 weeks before the tsunami hit. They migrated. They left that entire area. They were like, we're out of here. That was 2 weeks. That's fish. On land, 12 hours before that wave hit, the rangers that worked in these wild parks, they saw that all the animals picked up and walked towards the hill. Mm-hmm. So that shows you there's something, and I call that scalar communication. There's a unifying field that you can tap. Basically, you can manipulate it. I think that Tesla tried to manipulate it by using it as a remote control, by using 60,000 volts in an antenna tower to break a piece off and send it to a piece that he can manipulate. But I think it's a nice idea, but I'm thinking more leave the field alone. Like when in Star Wars they talk about the Force. Mm-hmm. It's there to assist you when you are in tune with it. It doesn't have. You can't tune it to you. That's when people try to weaponize it. You know, when the military try to use scalar bombs or scalar, you know, death rate, all that stuff. That backfires because you take away from the whole, and anybody who's involved with that, there's a price to pay. We can't do that. So basically, you take from the source. You miss from the source in a cycle of wholeness. So we have to work with the allowance of what is, and then get into what we call the zero field, which is where it's untouched. Quantum physics talks about when you look at a particle, it already does what you want it to do because your projection already influences that what is. And when we learn not to interfere with that, more to look at what is, then it can be safe to, to work with, you know. So let me see what we have here. What the cells also work with is a biophotonic protein synthesis modulation, meaning That's how the cell digests and operates life. We are a little bit like plant life, you know, and people have proven that also. There's a guy on Pinterest who had created his own biotope by putting a plant in a big bottle sized like this, and for 40 years, like he watered it one time, for 40 years he hasn't opened it. Because, here's this, the leaves that drop to the ground, that die, that fertilize the ground, and the condensed water that melts down, comes down on the side when the sunlight hits it, feeds it with water, and the plant is well and alive after 40 years. You put a cork on it, and it's working. So if you can isolate something and keep it clean, it continuously grows, almost without age. They also have shown that the human cell doesn't necessarily have to age. It has to do with the toxins, the processed food, and all the stuff that we're giving each other. We also forgot our circadian rhythms. That means, like, show me any animal besides the nocturnal hunters that eats at night. Most of them don't, unless they are nocturnal hunters and they sleep during the day and they're active during the night. But birds, they sit down, monkeys, whatever, we don't eat at night as a species. Well, humans, we go out at night, we drink, we do all of the stuff when your stomach is actually asleep. That's part of another deterioration process where we have to listen to our circadian rhythms. You know? So also what I base my technology on is what people tell me. So what the key does, it has 22 rings that talks to the 3 energy bodies that I mentioned. We're talking about photonic cell level activation, meaning like literally lighting up your hearts, your chakras, your cells, you know, harmonizing the light distribution system in your body. Intra-superluminous cell communication. That means superluminous. What does that mean? I mean extra powerful super light. Some people say I had discussions with that say that it doesn't exist. It does exist. It's just when everything is just lit up. Just, you know, just like let's say if I would turn on a 20,000 watt light beam in your eyes, you couldn't look at it. But when your retina adjusts to that light frequency, you can look right at the light bulb. That means you adjusted. So your cells have that. Let's say Earth, when they say the dark ages, literally the dark ages, meaning that not only because we didn't have electricity, it's no, because literally we were in mental darkness, meaning our cells were not fired up, our synapses were not connected, that the way everything functioned and worked with our system wasn't really firing properly because we were not in the right light spectrum. Explains why Merlin and other druids knew places where they would sit and they got activated. Why? Because what they call them the fairy circles. David Wilcock talks about that also, where mushrooms grow in a circle around it and create a mycelium network in the floor bed. And when you sit in that thing, you can disappear in time, reappear. Cameras malfunction. They're very rare and very hard to find. They say the fairy folk dance there, the little people from the other side. Some people crossed, some people never came back. Not so much people really try to find that. There's not a big science on it, but all I know is if you have a mycelium network, such as the brain, similar, you have a connection of energy flow, highly photonic active, different temperature if you measure that. And negative ions like the Niagara Falls. You know, why do people go to healing places? Because it's the accumulation of negative ions. The Niagara Falls have 50 to 80,000 per cubic square. The King's Chamber of the Cheops it's in the millions. You know, I've entered what I would call the ascension chamber in Bavaria, or a friend of mine had set up a model to replicate that, and I felt like I was smart, like smarter for like I had a stream of ideas coming to me. I felt like it's like a trip, like a mile trip. I felt like outside it must have been like 90 or something degrees. Inside it was like a mild, cool breeze, and I'm like, is there any wind blowing or any AC, and he says no, that is the negative ions that basically jump. It's like life force. It jumps to your body, and your body soaks it up, and all the deficits get fixed. And I was like, I want to sleep in here. I feel so good. And he showed me he had put cheese on the floor, and usually cheese rots, but that cheese mummified. Nothing rots. Parasites run out of that chamber, like they can't stand it, like roaches, worms or whatnot, stuff that is literally called a parasite. So I realized something of a higher light spectrum doesn't attract parasites. It actually repels them. Like if you're healthy, you're not parasitic. And then he showed me if you use the sand in agriculture, which is not being officially produced, because to produce that is just, you would need tons and tons, and it's a very complicated process to produce that. But you put it in your soil, you need no chemical fertilizer. All you have is quartz silicate, nanoquartz in your soil, and it'll be parasite free. And you can do that with waterways, a lot of stuff. So when people from the past in the 50s reported on LSD, that is, what people don't understand, also a biophotonic light accelerator on a very, very, very high level. So that's why these people explain they feel like their time is slowing down and they get stuff quicker. That has to do with your brain becomes operational beyond the speed of light. That's why you become psychic, because you begin to see time probabilities. I spoke to a friend of mine who had an interesting trip. He said he saw a fly coming, and then everything just went like stopped. He saw the fly, and he saw a dotted line of light punctuations and swirls, and he could see the probable line that the fly would pick to fly across the field. And then he's kind of like let it go, and then he saw it, and then it flew exactly the pattern that he saw. He said he could look at the DNA, he could see the communication levels, and it's like, there's so much to learn when we can look into ourselves, not blaming ourselves, and learning the ways again, like the order they call, interestingly, the Jedis have a high council order, So there's always a higher council that governs the teaching of Jedis, which is what we all are. We're all of the light, we're all illuminated beings to a certain degree, and we can look at that stuff. So we can look into drawing out negative programming and exchanging missing energy fields with actually divine light, which is also what I have in the key. There was another doctor where people can go Google. His name is Bovis, Bovis. He went into the king's chamber and packed a bunch of parasites basically in a trash can, rats, everything he could find, and put it in the center of the chamber, and they fled or died and mummified. Parasites cannot hold the energy spectrum in the light. Parasites work on a lower light level bandwidth. And so we have to understand there are some certain things in the ether that are not supposed to be with us. They're not supposed to be in our body. So there has to be, on an energetic level, what I'm working on is an agreement that of a coexistence. And if whatever other side does not agree, then bye-bye. That's a process of evolution. And as this new millennium kicks in, there's much, much miraculous stuff that people release where you couldn't believe that this could exist, but now it does, and we should explore. We should go out there, allow ourselves to have an open mind to really receive the gifts that are here. Where the shamans, that got butchered by the colonists and immigrants that sought our new land because they felt trapped. They said, we are only here to prepare you for the greatest times that you're in, and the time is now. So why would I waste my time, let's say, on Facebook, bitching about stuff that I can't solve? My question is to every human on the planet, what am I doing to make a change? And nobody pays you. There's not an investment for that. It's you all have to move yourself, get yourself clear, and get up, What is your participation? How do I activate? Who do I activate? How do I talk? Is my talk efficient? You know, why am I sitting, as I have to use that example, on Facebook 8 hours a day seeking drama, and I see how people eat each other up, start cursing at each other, attack each other in the worst way, and I say, let this be an analogy for us. Excuse me. Let's say, as a gameplay, that our brothers and sisters that are other dimensional, they are watching us. They are connected through the higher formation of ourselves. And let's say Facebook is a channeled creation of interdimensional beings to see who can set up a community of 5,000 people digitally, which is a safe way. What topics will they pick? What evolutionary path will they choose? Like, we are the monkeys in our little prison boxes, and the toys got tossed in, you know, like elementary. So one of the toys is Facebook. So you have 5,000 people right now, and then somebody talks about murder, mayhem, disses everybody, discriminates, you know, and then deletes their account. Well, apparently you're not ready to lead a community. And we need to go back into finding group leaders and community leaders to restructure our planet. That's actually a fact. That science has shown that in the future, you know, who needs a governmental structure if you can't govern a certain group of people? You know, make it smaller, start producing more divine, getting out of the game construct of what is, and slowly. And I'm not talking about, you know, what failed, like hippie, and yeah, it's all this life and caring, sharing, and give to me. And I don't want everybody. We all have to work together. We all have to chip in our craft. Too many times I've seen people that don't want to chip in anything. They want to take from people, and they take and deplete the system. And then the other side, which is the masculine-oriented, dominated, masculine, left brain ratio, reason thinkers say, look, see, it doesn't work. So you need us. So again, we're in the trap of, well, we need a protector because you're messing stuff up and you're misusing the power that's given. So now we should come to terms with ourselves, come to peace with ourselves, do not misuse the powers that are given. Even have investors that would say, I have enough money. Let's say somebody, because I heard of entertainers that sit on $2 billion. If I have $2 billion, I can give $100 million into an investment and say, I don't want anything from it. I want you to thrive, and I want to have no rights. Just remember my name, that I helped you. And a lot of investment politics are based on how much can I get from what you have because you are in $1 billion industry. And that brings the financial pressure back in the trap. Monkey, you don't know how to put the ball through the sphere, the square to the cube, and the triangle to, you know, back to elementary. If you don't know how to put the parts together, you're not ready to be released. So we are like I would say, an extraterrestrial hybrid race, the entire human race, and we're out of control. You know, I heard stories of a guy who remembers a past life. He said that he's stuck on Earth, and it's kind of funny and sad. And he said it's been 20,000 years, and he was an explorer. And he said when he landed with his team, they all got killed. Basically, it's like we're so primitive, like you have a ship coming in here, you get shot at. So the official contact and the way the science fiction shows it, in War of the Worlds and everything is demonic and against you, well, it's complicated. Now, our brothers and sisters need to communicate to us through our consciousness and through our higher self communication. Some will say it's an illusion, it's all epigenetics, it's all in your head. Well, I believe the stuff that we're manifesting on Earth is far from illusion because it becomes physical fact. Look at the Keshe Foundation that just released all their patents with anti-gravity, producing voltage out of a Coke bottle, stuff that you can rebuild. And I suggest people, if you want to get the patents, Keshe Foundation, 1.4 gigabyte, free downloadable. And if you can build something, get up your ass. I have to tell that to the people, really, and start going. Go to Ace, go to your little shops, buy wire, buy crystals. If you know you're a science geek, stuff is working. We need to get up now and start working, and not saying I'm on welfare, I need the government to provide. You should be in a mind state where you need nobody to provide for you but yourself.
Mhm.
as in C-E-L-L, cells, yourselves, meaning get yourself in gear and get the consciousness in gear that you can get up now and do it right. So let's say there are a few Facebook accounts that, as in a storyline, ETs look at and say, oh, okay, there's one who has peace. Oh, they seem to resonate with them. Okay. Let's see what the universal bank account is, what they call that. Let's give this one here $100 million, and let's see what they will do with that. Make sure they protect it because there's still old paradigms, and let's see what can be built. And this is now our turn, where the rubber meets the road. What are you doing with that? What are you building? I myself, I dream of bubble domes, George Jetson type style. All races are unified. All are one. We all bleed red. We all depend on air. There's no difference. Earth doesn't choose. It's the mind that chooses. It's the mind that turned into a bullshit artist that thinks it runs the world when it does not run the world. We have to come together, listen to the people that make sense, people that try their best now, and thank God to the internet that are connecting us through the world, such as you are. Lokesh, you are a cell formation that communicates to me as a cell formation, meaning we are a unibody. So you understand now, when the human race begins to become a hive mind, that means like, you see the sad part right now. Let's say what happens in Baghdad and what happens to these people there. It's like the liver, let's say of the entire organism Earth, the liver is out of control right now. Or the kidneys think they're on a show. Or your gallbladder thinks it can hold back when it's no need to. Or your heart says, well, maybe I skip a few beats. Let's see how this affects the entire body. We have no other choice than divinely have all the organs resonate in unison. But what happens is, in people that are sick, one organ underfunctions and the next organ compensates. And when the compensation ends, it turns into physical dimensional sickness, and we have to understand energetically we are energetic beings. We need to get into the physical, yes, not just cutting out pieces. The main part is where is the energetic body? What is the blueprint of your scalar body, and what originally should you look like? Russians have tested that. You can test that at home. Sit people between two mirrors, they get reflected to infinity, they begin to heal. Because the aspect is reflected until all the negative aspects, it's like positive, negative, all the amplitudes are basically nullified, coming back in unison, and healing can take place. And people, when they read, now the truth is out there. It's no longer hidden schools or hidden class or Oracle of Delphi, and you have to travel to Greece in order to get information. The information is now online, but now it's not about give me some proof. It's about not get into your heart, get out of your mind, and feel the people that you are in resonance with. Mm-hmm. And I say naturally, and sometimes when people say, it doesn't help if you give a blind man glasses, he won't see. It doesn't help if you give a deaf person a hearing aid, they will not hear. Is if a doctor like Dr. Bruce Lipton has proven with linseed oil treatment and a high accumulation of vitamin C, also reishi mushroom tea helps cancer patients to be cancer-free and not be on chemotherapy, and he has 3,000 people, roughly, I think, between 2,000 and 3,000, that are all healed. What's the question? What, as in common sense, do I need to question when I'm in that position and I'm running all the alternatives? I need to get linseed oil and get it going. So look at what people say, what the people experiences. So that's why I base also my key design is what are the testimonials of the people that have the key. I channel it in, I data streamed it in, but people are damaged from the so-called manager expert that says, well, this is what you must buy, even though you don't need it, and it's all chemical and bleach and crap for you, but buy this for, I don't know, $900 or $200. And now it's up to I don't care if you have a doctor or Harvard or whatever degree you have, is if you can perform the task and people show me the evidence that they're satisfied with the conduct you produce, I'm your customer. That's the future. And that's why the old industry is losing, because it comes to people buying product and going online and saying, well, I bought this product actually and it's actually crap. Look at what happens when you do this and this. And then the person that reviews the product online, so true, and I love that as the truth comes up, they say, well, company X and X produces product XYZ and it fails. And then 200,000 people have a chance to make a choice by looking at their other self experience and reflecting on that. And that's another market. If you deliver crap in the future, you will not sell. People won't buy crap. People will inform themselves and say, what's the essence here? What do I need? Where do I need to put my mind? What do I need to invest in? Where am I with this? Like, as in, what would Buddha buy? What would Jesus buy? You know, it will put you in perspective, or what would Muhammad buy when they in a grocery store, and you see these holy figures standing there, you know, and it gets really, really essential, down to the point of what's really life essential. What do you really need, and what's non-essential? And the body also has a mechanism. Once it realizes what's non-essential, it will revolt. You know, when people like all of a sudden out of the blue have to puke their guts out, well, that's your body detoxing itself by saying, enough, I can't do this anymore. You know, especially when for some people, happened to me almost 5 years ago, is when your diet changes. My body just smacked me and said, okay, this just stops. So I can't do milk or sugar. You know, like very, very small portions. I have to eat neutral. I try to go alkaline, tore my entire system up because I'm type O negative. And then I read a doctor said, when everything goes haywire before you collapse, eat neutral. So I get that book. It's called Blood Types in You. Eat what is for you naturally, in moderation, and neutral. Same with water. Try to drink neutral water. If you have an alkalinity problem, see, if you're diabetic and you drink alkaline water, that's detrimental to you, because the body needs that sugar that the insulin pump can't deliver to keep the pH level neutral. People don't talk about that. You know, all of these diets don't talk about, like, I'm type O negative, and then they say eat kale, eat barley. Well, I'm barley sensitive. Well, I got these drops here, they barley and they fermented. Well, I tried that thinking I'm healing myself, and my entire digestive system collapsed. Like, we really have to really go back to biomechanics. How do we work out of the myth? You know, you can go back to Africa. They cannot afford to be vegetarian.
Yeah.
Kids that are starving are being brought back with chicken broth so they gain some weight, because salad, they're not going to survive on it, you know. And then when people want to complain about it, and I say, I respect everybody for their choice, but this is the Western society has developed vegan this, that, and the other. That's all crazy. You have natives that live in the jungle that hunt, that they have checked their blood, they would die if they can't be in their hunting grounds, because these proteins, they're so used to it, and 20,000 years of being used to that, like, you can't go a luxury. I do my cleansing, I do my fruit juice every morning. Maybe your entire body's not made for that. You know, we always have to, I'm not trying to diss that, but there's some people that ended up in the hospital trying to go in these superfood directions, not knowing what they're doing, not even knowing the biomechanical aspect. And I say, if you have a little Biafra child that needs a piece of chicken and a little bit of meat to get back because it's about to die when you don't feed it, and green soup is not going to do it. Kale is not going to save the child. Well, explain that to the African mother or somebody in the jungle, they're about to lose their child, if you want to go meatless, when that's their hope of coming back. What you do later is your choice, but we always got to check the scientific data, you know. So, and I know we can go green, but everything in moderation so you can handle it. I know gorillas, eat green. We can't eat grass because we don't have sick stomachs. So in moderation, give the body time to recalibrate. Don't go overboard. If somebody goes on a super diet and I see their rib cage, women lose their chest and they cave in and they have no endurance. I'm shocked to see that.
Mm-hmm.
They had a few friends that tried to really, really, really go super raw, and one died because the body wouldn't pick up. So we have to really be very careful. What do you use? What do you eat? How do you apply that to yourself? What do you need? What is your balance? Everything, whatever your choice is, there should be a freedom of how you eat. Look at the food, how processed is the food. Whatever your choices shall be your peace and your freedom, but you should be looking like you have meat on your bones. I don't believe in this myth where the guru sits in the mountain until he's a ribcage and he fades and he leaves this earth and because he can't hold physical form anymore. Yet you begin to leave. When you can't hold physical form, you'll begin to leave. That's physical fact. And it doesn't matter what you eat. I look at how is your mind state, what does your body look like, where's your endurance? And by that I can say, to my observation, what's good, what's bad, and getting out of all of the concepts.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you mentioned about the technologies and free energy and the new technologies coming up. How do you see that's different from when, for example, Tesla or William Reich were there? They had the technologies, but it got suppressed from the government and all these people. So do you think now how is it different now?
I think our consciousness is different. We have a pad, we have apps, we have conscious games where one game is called osmosis, where you have to be a cell that eats negative cells. One is called biofilm attack, where you see an organism that's infected and you gotta get the helper cells and the T helper and what they call the killer cells, as in you gotta build your immune system and get the infected areas clear. So we're beginning to re-engineer that, understanding how we're working and getting healthy. And I think that Tesla was not so much suppressed, it was just more like money. He dealt with the wrong people, financial people that were about financial control. He wasn't about that, and then your knowledge gets lost. I mean, all I know is Tesla's patents are all released now. If you want to download that, you can ask for that. You pay a fee, you get a DVD or a zip file, and let's get to work. It's like not sitting back. We don't have to accept conspiracy theories anymore. We can do some stuff here, and that I can promise. In the future, when people stick with me, I will show you progress. Whatever little progress I make, I will show you progress. And it's not a promise; it's a fact. And I know that because I have backup. I wouldn't say that. I don't say these things lightly because it's my name on the line. But put it this way: there's an African story that I heard, which I find very interesting. Is the bush is burning, all the animals run, and there's a little hummingbird that goes to the lake, gets a drop of water, flies over there, and drops the water into the burning and raging fire. And you see that as a conscious aspect, and all the animals are like, "You're stupid. What are you doing?" And the hummingbird says, "I'm doing the best that I can." That's what we do as when you pioneer stuff. And I want to extend that storyline. Is like the only part that wasn't burned was promised to the hummingbird to start building a complete new nest, or the other animals saw nothing but burnt rubble. But from that, you can rebuild worlds. So I say, do not underestimate the little hummingbirds that are out there. One friend of mine named is Bridget Nielsen. She talks about hybrid children. So another hummingbird. Teal Scott, Ralph Smart, Tom Lesher. I love these guys. They're going out there and doing the best they can to extinguish the fire of forgetfulness, to get people in gear to understand who they are. And that's part
Right.
of, and the Bible says it, the Torah says it, um, other ancient texts always says, many are called, but only a few will listen. And see where our consciousness is, how hard it is you have somebody sitting on a toilet making a song about sitting on a toilet and they have 100 million views. That shows you the level of consciousness of the interest.
Right.
So it'll take some time for us to lead by example, to set up facilities where people can say, there will be a cosmic economic empire set up that will show how this is led. With a backup that is so unbelievable, people haven't even seen that. That's not official, it's not out there. It will be official once it's visual. And then people will begin to see from the metropolitan areas to the new cosmic, I call them 5D or higher dimensional communities, or other books talk about cities of light. Once they are established and they run, I don't know, solar paneled roadways, having their own electricity, self-sufficient, sustainable, and they have the internet, and they do their business and graphic design, and everything is still running, but in a different approach to Earth, in a different angle, the way we more become a symbiont and a symbiosis with Earth instead of parasitic. That we go to a place, accumulate, metropolitan areas come, everybody moves there, and every natural resource gets depleted until you go to the next. And that's parasitic, and we want to get out of that system, because if that doesn't stop, Earth will stop it at some point to some degree. So it's time now. The next 10 years you will see, I believe, the next 6 years you will see people will be rich overnight by having new ideas and having breakthroughs and believing in themselves. And the good part is you have YouTube now, and interviews such as this, they count as prior use. So whether they have a patent or whether they get accepted or not, I'm saying it to the people out there. If you have a generator that, let's say, runs on 10 amps and produces, let's say 16 amps and produces 5,000 watts, release it, produce it, let people like us get our money. Like I would save my money and buy it and put my house online. No more waiting for this being money hungry and this and that. We all want to make money. We all want to make exchange. That's understandable. But I'll say, just like with my key, you know, there's a patent pending, but I'm not depending on that. Is I'm releasing it, I produced it, I'm the maker of it, I'm the creator of it. Online, everybody, my entire clan knows, my people, they know, and I'm releasing it. And whatever I have, I will release it. I will point my finger to go there. This is what it does. These are the physical, for those who need the physical data, which is understandable, we will have that also. And let's grow from there, you know, and work together from there. And have people like you that have an open mind and a resonance where they say, I see where this guy is coming from, I understand, and I want him to grow, so I want my opposite to grow, you know, in freedom, so we can do that. And then we could all share, and then we can be abundant. And then in a couple of years, we can talk about how we can transition and transform the monetary society. But that's also, we also designed it for ourselves to see, you know, who's willing to pay what they owe. Everybody wants to take, and then we all end up owing the government or having a mortgage or whatnot running because of mismanagement. That comes back to us. Where do we mismanage? That is our grounding and our responsibility. So I can blame the banking system or the consumer product system as saying that this is all a bunch of ripoff. The ripoff begins with myself making my choice. Where do I invest my money? Where do I put my chips? My consciousness, coming back to my responsibility. Responsibility, the ability to respond and clearly communicate with self and others, and that's how organisms can grow, you know. So
Right. So you're saying that there's not as much of suppression or control as there was before, just because
yeah,
everything is kind of open source and
yeah, it's
the
open
minute.
source. The truth is out there. You want to study stuff, it's out there.
Right, right. So nobody can. I mean, so you think that there's no real, whatever they call controllers or Illuminati, like looking for people, trying to get rid of them and things like that happening anymore?
I think that thread has left. There's a remnant of a memory of certain clans who are trying to get their stuff together. And trust me, whoever is left here, whatever they want to talk about, Draconian or Reptilian, trust me, they all want to heal. They all want to get into the spiritual human experience. They all want to get active, and we all want to go home. Trust you me. It doesn't matter how wicked or whatever beast is out there. People do strange things when they're scared. They all want to heal. So the resistance, there's no more real resistance. The only resistance is in the mind.
Right, right.
I don't have to go to a demonstration where people sign for a petition that never makes it to Congress, but I can be at home and work on a water filter that when I'm ready to release it is able to heal riverbeds, because I have no time to waste my time to run with the flock to vote for something that never reaches anybody and never reached anybody. So for me, respect to those who put themselves out there. You know, it's a shame when sometimes people get targeted, even, you know, when there's a bunch of police officers, you know, and we have created them, so people have to stop blaming them too. But why would I put myself amongst a bunch of ruthless cops that have to protect their own while they're in the big cities, and I get smacked because I'm in the middle of it?
Right.
If somebody wants to come at me when I'm not dealing with that, you know, that's another story. But see how they create the war, and that's how the remnant. Certain states have even declared now if a police officer unlawfully enters your premises, you can shoot him. So you see how war is being instilled and over, and now shoot him. Get your right, get your gun, shoot that guy. You know, that makes it easier. You know, that's basically the lawgivers can say, let's look at these primitives, how they wipe themselves out. You know, and the mind, here's the thing, is like when you choose to not participate, you know, to a point where I would even outlaw guns and only have a specially trained gunman or officers carry that with a DNA print and a tracker in the gun. And the minute there's a hiccup, I'll own you. See, in China or in Japan, that you catch you with a gun, it's 25 years prison. You know, people need to respect that we shouldn't need that. I know at a certain level, consciousness knows it doesn't need that. That has to do with lower level consciousness aspects. But I think that the human race is growing into that we are learning not to promote violence, not to create violence, not to create more conspiracy theories and more fear into people, because fear doesn't solve anything. You know.
Right, right. And you also mentioned about parasites, and I saw one video where you mentioned about parasites and the importance of what we eat and drink, of course. So do you want to tell a little bit more to our listeners what are some of the steps they can take to improve or work on their bodies?
Okay, first off, watch that video, Parasites in Humans, or Nanobacteria. Find out yourself what parasites you carry. Almost every human carries parasites, more or less. And some are helpful, some are not helpful. It's all about balance. I believe at some point you don't need parasites. That has to do with how you eat. Because if you eat in a way that's that healthy that a parasite has nothing to eat, why would he be the host? You know. So watch that video, because that's a long storyline that explains how I personally believe that the manipulation of the human race began 500,000 years ago. There's a professor that has found out that we have a node in our DNA that's a switch. He calls it the Hayflick switch, that's causing you to age, to die, and disease to grow infinite. He has realized that cancer doesn't have that switch. The DNA of cancer is immortal. It has to make you think. It grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. But the human genome, at a certain stage, is you stop producing enzymes. Why is that? Oh, it's natural. Well, I say it's Anunnakian genetic manipulation of a slave race, where we are derivative from, all of us. So Houses that the ancient tales, nobody talks about that. Women used to give birth every 3 to 6 years. They had a cycle every 3 or 6 years. You understand that? We were turned into breeders. So the women have their cycle every 4 weeks, and they lose energy, they lose minerals, all that stuff. They go. It's not a nice process they go through, and it's believed that it's genetically implemented. So we have to breed. Then too many slaves are dying. We need them to grow fast and in a very fast rate and breed. So life was precious. That's why Earth was less populated in the ancient times. You imagine women giving birth every 6 years, and then it was decided by the council. If life, if there's a soul that will be ready to live here. See how every soul, everything just bounced on Earth and we overpopulated. Everybody's here. Everybody wanna experience this here. The gates open and everything, anything that wants to develop came here. Nothing bad. We're all here. Now we all have to solve it. All races.
Right. So what's the message on the food and the water? What can people do then?
Basically, so God will get in the products in the future that I will provide is to light up your food, clear your food, restructure the light in your fridge. For those who want EMF out of their house, invest into Shungit.
Can you explain what do you mean by restructure the light of the fridge?
That means get devices that will have a photonic emanation to basically get the light in your fridge going, because you're cutting it off. It's a Faraday cage. It runs on 60 hertz electricity. You cut everything off. You need to bring something natural in there, like a crystal or rock, Shungit,
So is it destroying food just like the microwave is destroying food? Is it what also it's doing?
A fridge is not really preserving food. A fridge is actually destroying food. It's a killer.
So you mean if we put things like crystals and stuff in the fridge, and is there any certain kind of crystals that help?
Yeah, like one is Shungit. So in the future, I want to work on an invention that a fridge is basically emanating root cellar energy, and then you should see that you can have apples in there for 6 to 8 weeks and they won't deteriorate, or your strawberries, berries in particular, rot very quick in the fridge. And after experiments where I just took my photonic mini cannons and built a little Faraday cage and kept it cool, and it just lasts. So that has to do with biophotonic emanation, needs to be brought back into the refrigerator. Microwave is outlawed in Russia because what you do is with microwave is you're nuclear. You're radiating your food to heat it up. People need to understand that. You're putting nuclear radiation into your food to accelerate molecules until they heat up. What happens in 5 minutes? All vitamins, minerals, bio-vital accessibility gets destroyed. It means if you put an apple in there, after 2 minutes, it's crap.
So is the fridge doing it at a similar level, or is less so?
Lower. A fridge is less destructive. Yes, it preserves a few things because it keeps them cool, but it doesn't preserve them in the long run, and we can change that. We can change that.
And what kind of? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, putting crystals in there is one step, Putting Shungit in there that eats up the electromagnetic frequency is one step.
And because I saw online Shungit, there's different kinds. Like, do you know any source which is reliable?
Yeah, Shungit.com in Russia. They deliver. It takes a month, up to 2 months, but they deliver.
Okay, I'm making a note here because that's one thing I've been wondering about it, because I know about microwave for many years, but I didn't know. But I wonder that fridge definitely is doing something to the food, and
I mean, I still use a fridge, but I'm still working on getting a bigger facility, and then I want to basically buy a brand new fridge and then take it apart and put my photonic devices in the shell and then put it back together and see what effect it has. And if that works, that's basically a new invention.
Right, right. Yeah,
That I
that.
will market.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that I will market that. Basically, I will film it. Everything I'm doing right now, I'm recording. Once I'm ready, I will release all the video. People can see for themselves what
Oh
happens when
yeah, that's great because I'm definitely going to be one of your first buyers because food is.
honestly, you know, everybody want to make money and this and that. That's all nice, and you want to think, oh, you want to get rich quick now. For me, it's like this exchange has to be made because we have to respect that. But I want people to have something functional. You know?
Yeah, and for the long term because now everybody's thinking short term, right? And now we have
That's
to.
long term. That's really longevity, long term. You gotta change that stuff. You
Yeah,
gotta get out of these habits. You know, you gotta
yeah, I
reset
know.
your lives.
Yeah, and that's what the advertising industry and the fast food industry has done to our minds. Like, and also the technology now is moving so fast, so everybody thinks that, the faster the better, but actually it's the other way around, and that's how nature works too, right?
Well, it's
Because
basically
nature,
yeah, it's to simplify. You know, simplify. I work with a pad. I have a MacBook, and I love it. You know, and I pay the price because I respect the price for the engineering of that thing. But now what I do here with this is what do I do with that machine? You know, graphics design, making new stickers. You see in the back, I created a poster for
mhm.
enhancing food energetics, talking to the water molecules in the food, and turning that into a bigger company with two more individuals that I found through the computer, through the internet, and I've really made this tool useful to set it up. You know, and once that's rolling, I wouldn't even really need so much the internet. All I need is a postal service and being able to deliver something that works.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, technology and the internet is definitely a big help these days.
I very much appreciate it. This is almost like telepathic, you know, that I can send you a text message or whatnot. And um,
Yeah, exactly. And things like Wi-Fi, like I use a Bluetooth on my phone, and it's so much easier. It's almost like you said, telepathic. And when I read about Tesla and all these people, that's what they were experimenting with, passing energy kind of wirelessly, right?
hmm,
So yeah, that's all great information. So before we end our conversation, you have
yeah.
anything else to say to the listeners and your already existing students about your future plans and stuff like that?
Future plans are basically developing devices that will clear water, clear the body, more powerful, clear your car, save a little bit in fuel consumption, healing the emission rate coming out of your car, you know, getting that adjusted, keep getting your oil clean, having your transmission working better. That goes from here to trucks, to construction, to ships, to trains, the planes. All levels can be touched. Harmonizing the environment, house gridding systems, and stuff for, like, let's say, a plate where you can measure the nuclear radiation around your house, and you install the plate in your house, and you turn the Geiger counter on, and you see all of a sudden that, let's say, your nuclear radiation, you had an example going from 2023 to 06, like over 90% drops in radiation in your house once these systems are installed, and they all will be online. Water structuring, heating, healing riverbeds. Let's say, look at New York Hudson River. Needs a lot of work. So there's an idea for a device that's as big as a cargo trailer out of crystalline glass particles that would have to be dumped in the river and sit there, and then the
Right.
river automatically pick up and begin clearing itself. So that has to do with investment, all that stuff I'm working on. I'm doing good. I have support. I have full control with my partners, so nobody interferes. So we live in good times. We have nobody suppressing us. You know, basically, is the universe asks us, you know, can you step up there and show and prove, and you know.
Great.
So I have some stuff up the pipe that's coming soon, where I will show video documentation of physical data where you can go. I have some stuff where I'm not even going to say what it is, where you will be like, wow, that's unheard of. You know, it was tough to find it, but we have it now. We run it, and it has to do with our intent, and it will be going to be a little bit Harry Potterish, but it's scientifically all explainable. It's not magic; it's science. I tell people. Yeah,
Right.
that's all I have to say. So expect greater things to come, more progress, and more breaking it down to the teeth. I will work on a book. When that's going to be released, I don't know. That will be called the Path of the Ascender. I see a person that is concerned about ascension and the health of the planet and well-being of family and friends and on all is an ascender to me. If you want to already join my early group that already has 108 members, which just really started on Google Groups, The Ascenders, you just
Right.
you know, have a picture so I know something or an idea, and then I'll add you, and you will witness directly from the source what I'm doing. That's even
And
before it hits.
how do you spell that group name?
A Z ENDERS as The Ascenders.
The Ascenders. And also your website again?
My website is ra-key.com.
Right. And I know you're working on another one, right?
Yeah, and the second one is called Arcturian Council, which is kind of blogish and whatnot, which will be reworked. So arcturiancouncil.com also.
All right. All right, great. That's a lot of great information, Ra. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did as well. And yeah, and anytime you want to share more information to our listeners, do let me know. We can get online again. And once again, our website is soulfreedom.org, and Ra's website is ra-key.com. And this is your host, Lokesh Baba from the Soul Freedom Show. And thanks again, it was great speaking with you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.